part of day 2, our agenda for today, we'll see like what is user creation in Fusion HCM, how we can create a user in Fusion HCM. And before going to see how we can create a user, let me take an example. Now in the last class, we have seen what is Oracle Fusion application and how a customer will get Fusion application link when he buys this particular product from Oracle. Now, coming to the example, let's say there is an organization called Tata Group. Now, in the Tata Group, due to business requirement, they wanted to have an ERP application and they have reached out to Oracle to get that particular product. Now here Tata Group is a client and Oracle is the service provider. It is service provider. Now Tata Group reached out to Oracle and they bought the product. Now next comes the consultant. Let's say here I'm in this example, I'm taking Deloitte as example. Now when I say Deloitte, what Deloitte will do? Once Tata Group buys the product, now Tata Group has to have their organization structure implemented in the Oracle application. Now, in order to provide such services, there are different companies that are available in the market, starting from big MNCs like Deloitte, Infosys, Tech Mahindra, Accenture. Likewise, they have medium scale companies and small scale companies. Now, in order to serve our example, we have taken Deloitte as an example. Now, in this case, Deloitte will provide implementation consultant. Now, how Oracle will give the application access to Tata Group? Oracle will not give the application access to Deloitte, but whereas it will give access to Tata Group. How it will give? It will simply give the particular application link, a username, and password. Now, when you click on that particular application link, you will land up in this page. Once you are into this page, as a Tata Group, what they will do? They will access the application with the username and the password that is provided at the time of purchasing. Once they click here, they will be able to get into that application. But how Oracle will provide this application link? Do they provide access to all the users that are available in the Tata Group? No. They will only provide the access with one user who will be able to create users as per their business requirement. That means Oracle will provide only access to one person who is the IT administrator in that particular Tata Group, and they will give access to that person so that he can create n number of users based upon their business requirement. Now let's say Rajesh is from Tata Group now, and he is a IT security manager. He's IT security manager, and he will be able to create users for the entire Tata Group, and he can share that with the implementation consultants as well. That means Deloitte people will not have access at the beginning. Once the project is finalized, once they are finalized as the implementation consultant, then Tata Group will give access to Deloitte. But whereas Tata Group will have only their IT security manager. In this case, we have taken Rajesh as an example, and only Rajesh can create users. Now let us see how we can create the users and see how the application looks like and what are the roles that we need to have in order to create the users. Now let us go to home. There are multiple ways which we can create users. Now in this today's demo, or like in today's class, we'll see one of the ways and like one or two. I can create users from here by going into tools, security console. This is one navigation, and I can go to the same page through another navigation as well. Let me go to home page. Yeah, I've landed up on home page, and I can click here, and I can go to tools from here as well. And what is the path we have to follow in order to create a user? We have to follow this particular path. Home, tools, security, console. By following this path, I can create the users. Now, if I go into this page, when I'm landing up on this page, here if you see, there are multiple options. I can add a user account here. Now, before creating a user, let us understand what is user. Now, in Fusion applications and in Fusion HCM, we'll manage the entire employee data and all the HR data. Now, when I'm saying user, what is the difference between this user and the worker? Let us understand the user. In order to maintain or in order to configure certain tasks in the application, I can simply go and create a user as per my requirements. And based upon the access that the user has to get, I can create that particular user and add the rules to the particular user. Now, in this case, as I told you, now Tata Group got the access and they have given the user credentials to Rajesh. Now, what Rajesh is going to do now is he's going to create the implementation users for Deloitte. Now, let us create an implementation user. Add user account, first name, implementation, and user 1. Now, if you see here, automatically I was able to see the user name. How this username we got, we'll see in the coming time. Now I have got implementation dot user 1, which is the combination of first name and last name. Now I have to set a password for this particular user. Now, based upon the conditions that I can configure, I have given a password to it. That means I can define the strength of the password. But in this case, I'm directly entering my password. We'll see where we can give this particular criteria. Now, I have confirmed my password. Now I'm clicking save and close. Now I am able to successfully create my user. Implementation dot user 1. When I search for new user, I can see the implementation dot user here. If I click on this user, if you see here, the below, I can add roles to that particular person. Why we are speaking about roles now? Because whatever the roles, based upon the roles, we have certain restrictions in Fusion application. Because based upon the roles that we give for any user, he will be able to see certain pages and he'll be able to do certain tasks. Now, in this example, as I told, this is the implementation user. What I'm going to do, there are certain roles which will be helpful for you to do the implementation part. Not all users will be able to do implementation. Only users with specific roles can be able to do the implementation part. Now let us see what are those roles. One important role is application implementation consultant. When I say application implementation consultant, only with the user with this particular role will be able to do the implementation part. Not any user which is without this particular role will not be able to do the implementation. That means all the access will be restricted and all the tasks that have to be performed as a part of implementation will be hidden with the user who doesn't have this particular role. Now, role is to have the implementation access. Now, there is another important role which is IT security manager. When I say IT security manager, as I told you, whenever a Tata Group bought the particular Oracle application product, they will give only access to one user with the IT security manager role. That means the person with this particular IT security manager role is only responsible to create the users, or only he will be able to create the users. Now I told you like application implementation consultant role, but a user with application implementation consultant role will not be able to create the user. Now here we have seen the implementation user. We have created an implementation user. Let us see how these particular two roles will differ and how the access will differ. Now, in our case, in this example, only IT security manager should be able to see security console. That means he only can create users. Whereas application implementation consultant is responsible for implementing that particular organization in the application. Now for our implementation user, I am adding the roles. How you can add the roles? First, go to the user, add user account, add user, and after that, click on add role. Here you can easily see, if you search here, application implementation, to see here application implementation consultant. Now I am adding this particular role membership to that user, implementation user. Now done. Now let me copy the username, save and close. Done. Now I'm logging out from the application. Now to log in as an implementation user, confirm. Now I'm entering my implementation username as a user ID, and I am entering my password that I have just now created. Once I log in, I'll be able to see all the options that are available for an implementation consultant. Now we'll see in detail what are the operations that an implementation consultant perform. But in this example, we are only focused upon the access difference that will arise due to this particular role. Now, if you see here, I'm able to see the security console. I'm able to see set preferences, developer connect, approvals, report and analytics, schedule process, sales, service, access agents, and all the other options, transaction console, and notification preferences, collaboration messaging. I'm able to see all these options, but I'm not able to see security console. If I'm not able to see security console, that it means I cannot create user. An implementation user cannot create users. Now, let us sign in as Rajesh, who is a IT security manager, and log in and see. Now, this particular HCM IMPL1 has the role of application implementation consultant as well as IT security manager. Now, if I go into tools, I can see that he has the access to create a user. That means whenever you wanted to create a user, if you are going into tools, if you follow this path, tools and security console, you will be only able to see security console if you have this particular IT security manager role. Now, to summarize, in order to create a user, we need to have IT security manager role. In order to create a user and add roles to the particular person, we need to have IT security manager. I hope we are clear, right? Firstly, Tata Group bought the product and it has been given as a web link and a user. Now, Tata Group, the IT security team of Tata Group can create n number of users based upon their business requirement, and they can give access to the Deloitte people or any people within the organization in order to maintain and create the users to provide access to perform certain tasks. Hope we are clear till here, right? Now, let us see how we can set the password policies. Then how I can set the username preferences. Here we have seen when creating the user, I was able to see the username as a first name and last name, first name dot last name. If I go here again, now you can expect this question like where you will set the password criteria. You can expect this question in the interview. If you click edit here, if you see I have the user information. That means whatever the information that I have given when creating the username. The username is a combination of first name and last name. If you see here, where we are giving this criteria, we'll see. Now, if you see here, account information. Now, if you see here, you are able to see password expiration date. The password expiration date is 1/19/25. From where it is taking the password expiration date. And if you see below, we have active and logged. If I become logged here, this particular account will be logged and user will not be able to log into that application. I can set up that here. That means I can log the account from here. Now I'm keeping it as active. Now save and close. Done. If I go here, I have a task called user categories. If I click on the user categories, I can see there are different types of user categories. Now here I can see there is someone who created this Sina trainee and admin break glass. Now we have another part which is very important, that is default category. What do you mean by default category? Like I told you, I can create users. If I want to create users and if I want to segregate the users, now I am creating 100 users and let's say there is another department who are creating 100 users. If I want to differentiate the users that are created by me, then I can name it as Rajesh category. And let's say there is another department that is finance category. I can create different categories and I can create the users by going into this particular category. If you see here, when I go to the users, when I click on add user account, if you see, I can select the user category here, default. Now, when creating the user, I can group the candidate and create the user category from here. First, I have to define the user category here. Then after that, I can create the user from here. Now, let's see how we can create the categories and what is the information that I have to give in the category. Let us see the default category here. If you see here to your left side, you can see details of the category, the user category name. Now here I have given a default and user category description. Now if you see here, the important point, username generation rule. Why I'm getting their first name dot last name? Because I have set the username generation rule here. If you see, I can give the other rule as email, last name and person or party number. We'll see what is person or party number in the coming classes, but in most of the cases, username is given as the combination of first name dot last name or else email. Now, when I say first name dot last name, where I am going to use this one? If you remember, when I was logging like implementation dot user one, I have given in the username as implementation, which was my first name dot username, that is last name, that is user one. Based upon this condition, system took this combination and given it to me as my user name. Now just save and close. These are the information that we'll give at the details. Now let us see the password policy. If you remember, we have seen that the password expiration date is 1st January and 19. From here, that particular date has been passed to that user. Whenever I am creating a particular user in particular default category or any category that I have created, based upon the conditions that I give here, days before password expiration, days before password expiry warning. That means if your password is due to expire in January 19, I can set, if I set here 20 days, the particular user will get warning message to his email address before 20 days, prior 20. That means on December 31st, user will receive warning to his email. How about before password reset token expiration? Now, when you can get the password reset token, that means the link, when you can get that one. Here you can get that one. Now you can define the password complexity. If you want to have it simple, complex, very complex, or custom. Now if I select custom here, I can define my own custom password setup policy. Whatever the setup, that means if I give minimum characters should be 10, I can define it here. Minimum characters should be 10 and what should be the uppercase letters and what should be the lowercase letters, and how many digits that particular password should have, and what are how many special characters should that particular password should have. I can set up all these things here. And if you see, administrator can manually reset the password. Now I logged in as an administrator. That means if I check this box, the administrator, that means the administrator can reset the password of any user. But if I uncheck this one, only the user can do the password by clicking on forget password or reset password. Now I wanted to have admin to reset password of all the users in the application. That's why I'm selecting administrator can manually reset the process. Now I'm clicking save and close. These are the criteria that we will consider at the time of creating the password policy. Now we have notification. How the candidate should receive the notification process. We can enable it here. If I click here, these are all the delivered notification. Whenever you change your password, whatever you do related to that password related or security related, if you enable this notification, then all these notifications will be automatically triggered to the candidate based upon the actions that he performed in order to reset or create a new password. These are all Oracle delivered ones. And in most of the times, it is recommended to use only Oracle delivered one, because sometimes if there is an issue with your custom templates or custom notifications that you create, Oracle may not support that one if you face any issue. But whatever the delivered notifications, if you are not serving the business process, that your business requirement, then it is definitely recommended to create your own template. Now I can see the number of users that are available in my particular category. Whoever the users that are there, I can see them here. User not assigned to any user category are assigned to default user category. That means whenever I am creating a user, if I'm not giving any default or user category details, default category will be automatically given to me. I don't have to create the default category. It will be automatically come as a delivered default group or delivered group. Whenever I'm creating a user, if he or she is not defined into any category, then automatically they will come into the default category. Now this is how I can set my password policy. Now if you see in the security console, I'm able to see the roles here. Now, what do you mean by roles? By coming into this page, I can see what are the roles that are available for me to use in this application. If I come here, let's say for example, as our next agenda is to go and see what are the roles that are available for recruiting. Now if you see here, in order to implement or use Oracle Recruiting Cloud, these are the Oracle delivered roles that I have, and I can assign these roles and manage the recruiting activity from starting, like from entire recruiting cycle, starting from raising the requisition till completing the onboarding. If you see here, these are the roles that are involved in Oracle Recruiting Cloud. There are other roles which are related to core HR and other roles which are related to approval workflows. We'll discuss each and every roles once we get into this particular module. But before that, let us understand the roles that are involved in Oracle Recruiting Cloud, as our next prime focus is on understanding and implementing Oracle Recruiting Cloud. Whatever the roles that I am giving here, these are all the end users. And who is the implementation person? Application implementation consultant role is the role that we give for an implementation consultant. Let's say if I am from Deloitte, and if I'm implementing for Tata Group, what Tata Group will do, they will create my user and they will assign this particular role, and they will share those details with me so that I can do the setup task. Now let us see the end users here. Now we have the recruiter. That means whatever the role that I mentioned here, these are all the Oracle terminology names. If I go here and if I wanted to assign a recruiter role, or if I want to see the recruiter role, what are the privileges that the particular role have, I can come here and I can see the recruiter role. And if I come here, I can see hiring manager role. And similarly, I can see recruiting administrator role. recruiting admin. Likewise, I can search all the roles that are available for the recruiting process. But in order to assign any of these roles, what I have to do, I have to go to the user and I can search for my user, implementation consultant or implementation user, and I can click on the particular username, click on edit, add role, and I can give recruiter. I can search with the name recruiter and I can give that particular recruiter role here. Now these are all the delivered roles, but in the real time in business scenarios, I will not be using this particular recruiter role directly. That means this, when I use this particular recruiter role directly, it will give complete access to the all the tasks that are available for a recruiter. Let's say if I have a recruiter working in Hyderabad, and let's say I have a recruiter who is working in Bangalore. I don't want to have Bangalore recruiter to see the data of Hyderabad. That means I wanted to maintain certain security. That means I wanted to restrict Bangalore recruiter not to see Hyderabad data and Hyderabad recruiter to not to see Bangalore data. What I will do in such cases, I will restrict Bangalore recruiter by creating a custom role. By creating a custom role, I can restrict the recruiter who is working in Hyderabad will not be able to see Bangalore data, and the person who is working in Bangalore will not be able to see Hyderabad data. How I can do? By creating a custom role. If I use the same recruiter role, the seeded role, it might give complete access to both the people. Now, in order to restrict, I have to create a custom role. We'll see how we can create the custom role and what purpose does custom role serve and how far we can restrict. Now, when I say restriction, we have been provided with certain security profiles. Based upon that security profiles only, I can restrict. That means I cannot restrict as I need it, but by understanding the system functionality and what should be restricted and as per the business requirement, then only I can create a custom rule. Once I understand the business requirement and understand the business functionality, then only I will be able to create the custom rules. In real time, all are created as a custom rules only. In real time, no one will use directly these particular seeded roles. They will create custom role for each and every role, and they will start using the custom roles only. Now, these, as I told you, these are the end users. Now, let us understand what these end users will do as a part of Oracle Recruiting Cloud. Now, let me have them in sequence. Who is the first person to perform the recruiting activities? The hiring manager. Now, what hiring manager will do? After identifying the opening, he will raise the requisition. Once hiring manager raises the requisition, he will give the recruiter name. He will give the recruiter name to whom this particular requisition should go and who should complete that particular requisition. Recruiter name is given. And recruiter receives the particular requisition. Once the requisition is received by the recruiter, what recruiter will do? He will complete the requisition, such as JD, location, position. At some point, hiring manager will have only minimal information because recruiter is a person who will involve in all the recruiting activities. Hiring manager will have only idea about the job opening that is there in his department. He may not be able to provide all the information. In such cases, that's why hiring manager will provide only minimal information. He will not provide complete information, only minimal information. Let's say here in this example, I'm taking up, there is a position that is open of HCM consultant. Now, what hiring manager will do? He will only give the position name and the headcount that he needed for that particular job opening. And the department, if he has the information, he can provide that information, or else he can simply raise the requisition by providing the position name and the headcount that he is looking for. All the other details such as job description, location, position, all the details will be given by the recruiter in this particular requisition, and he will post it in the career site or any other location based upon the business requirement. Let's say if it is internal position, he may not be posting it in the career site. In such cases, he will post only with the internal career site. We'll see how we can do that in the application in the coming classes. Now, let us understand what collaborator will do. Now, when I say collaborator, he will collaborate with recruiter or help recruiter to perform certain tasks, such as scheduling the interviews or collecting the feedback. Collecting the feedback. Or helping the recruiter at the time of background check by collecting the documents or any other related activities. That whatever the activities that recruiter perform, collaborator will start helping that particular recruiter. Now, how this collaborator will be incorporated into that particular requisition? While raising the requisition itself, recruiter will add collaborator in that particular requisition. That means there is a field. We'll see once when we raise the requisition, you will be able to see there is a separate place where we can add collaborator. You can add one collaborator, you can add two collaborators, you can add n number of collaborators based upon the business requirement. Now, let us see another delivered role, that is human resource specialist. Let us see in the application. That means whatever the roles that we are speaking about, we can see them in the roles and we can assign them in this particular page. Let me search for the role human. I think it got logged out. Let me relog in again. I think there is some server issue, but we can see like how we have seen hiring manager role, recruiter role, and collaborator role. By going into roles, I can see the human resource specialist. But when I speak about collaborator, we will not be able to see collaborator in the roles, guys, because whatever recruiter can do, I can create or I have to create a custom recruiter role by removing most of the privileges. For collaborator, how I can create? I have to create a custom role for collaborator, custom recruiter role. Custom recruiter role, and I have to give only minimal access to particular collaborator who will be collaborator. I have to assign this role and I have to give minimal privileges so that he can have only limited access. Whatever recruiter is able to see, collaborator should not be able to see. Whatever recruiter is performing, collaborator should not perform. Now, when I say recruiter, he is the owner of the requisition. That means he only can release the offer letter. But when I'm creating a collaborator role, I should remove that particular create job offer privilege and create a custom role so that collaborators should not perform certain activities. Now, then comes the human resource specialist role. Now, once the offer is released and candidate accepts the offer, all the onboarding related activities are performed by human resource specialist. Now, once the candidate is in HR phase, that means in the onboarding phase, recruiter will have nothing to do. Only human resource specialist is a person who will be involved in the onboarding process, and he will guide the candidate through entire onboarding, and he will convert the candidate to employee once the onboarding process is done. That means human resource specialist is the role that is responsible for the onboarding process, and human resource specialist role is responsible to manage entire hire to retire cycle. That means whenever there is a promotion, whenever there is a salary change, whenever there is a location change, whenever there is a need to maintain your absences or adjust your absences, all the human resource related activities are performed by a person who is assigned with human resource specialist role. That means if you are not able to see any onboarding related tasks, that means you do not have this human resource specialist role. Now, I am speaking about all of these roles in specifically, why I'm speaking about, why I'm stressing up about each and every role, because whenever I am logging in and whenever I am going to raise a requisition, if I am not able to see certain tasks in while raising the requisition, then my first thought should go to that particular roles. Okay, I might not have the complete recruiter role, that's why I am not able to see this particular task. Now when I am not able to complete the requisition, then I should understand I am able to see the few options, but I'm not able to complete the requisition. That means I have hiring manager role. But in some cases you might not be able to raise the requisition, then what is the major issue? That means you don't have that role. Then you have to request your IT team to give you or assign you any of this role based upon the work that you have to perform. You have to reach out to your IT team and ask them to assign any of these roles to perform the recruiting activities. Now we have agents. Now agents is a different role. Like unlike the other roles, we come to this particular security console and we add these roles to the users who are recruiters, hiring managers, or human resource specialists. But whereas for the agents, we will not add this agent role to anyone. We will create the agents in Oracle Recruiting Cloud. That means we have a place where I can directly go and create agents. Whenever I create agencies, automatically I can add agents into that particular agency. That means if I create a user as an agent, automatically system will give a role called agent to that user. I don't have to add it again. Only when I create the user as an agent, not agencies, then there itself I can see agents created, and it is the role that is already given to him. I don't have to come here and give that particular role to that particular agents. And our agents are responsible to, now when recruiter raises the requisition, he will share it with the agencies. Now agents, what agents will do, they will see the requisition and they will start filling the application based upon the applications that they receive from the candidate. They will fill the candidate applications and share it to the requisition. And they will monitor the complete process, the hiring process of the candidate, and they will coordinate with the candidate. Now, if you see here, when agent outside consultancies are coordinating with the candidate, what happens automatically? The workload for a recruiter will decrease, and recruiter will have to like monitor the recruiting process minimally. That means he don't have to completely involved in the recruiting process, because there is another person who is helping recruiter in order to complete their recruiting process. Now at the time of background check also, recruiter will perform these particular, first agencies will perform this particular task, and recruiter will only validate that process and goes with the recruiting process. Now we have another role called recruiting manager. Now what recruiting manager will give? Recruiting manager role is a role above recruiter, where it will give certain accesses. That means whatever the access that recruiter role is not giving, recruiter manager will give broad access. And in order to maintain certain requisitions, or in order to restrict certain requisitions, I can use recruiting manager role, and I can create a custom role to restrict the requisition access. Now we have one of the important role called recruiting administrator. Now when I say recruiting administrator is a person who is responsible to configure these tasks in the recruiting module. Configure certain tasks. Now when I say certain tasks, we'll see what are the tasks that recruiting administrator can do. But whereas if till here, from hiring manager, recruiter, human resource specialist, agents, collaborator, these are a recruiting manager, these are all the end users. But whereas recruiting administrator, based upon the business requirement, let's say I as an implementation consultant have implemented Oracle Recruiting Cloud and given it to the customer. But in the recruiting life cycle, at the life cycle of the recruiting process, there might be certain need where certain configuration needs to be done, or certain configuration has to be modified. Now, in such cases, recruiting administrator will have access, and recruiting administrator can only perform those tasks and configure and deliver to the end user. Now, this particular recruiting administrator is similar to that of implementation consultant, but after implementing, if there is any need, we'll use this recruiting administrator role. And if I wanted to change, or if I wanted to do any configuration related task, I should have recruiting administrator role. Now, when you will be able to understand that you do not have recruiting administrator role, if you go to certain task as an implementation consultant, and if you wanted to implement something related to recruiting, when you go into that certain task, you will not be able to go into that particular task and edit the task and create the task. When you come to that certain situation, you should understand, and this particular point should come into your mind, that you do not have recruiting administrator role. Now, next comes the another role called candidate. Now, this is not a specific role, but whatever the candidate who applies through career site, internal portals, or consultancies, we call them as candidate, and the tasks that are performed by external user, that is candidate, we'll call it as candidate, but it's not a specific role that we are going to add to anybody. Now, we spoke about all these roles, and we have seen what each and every role will do. Now, what is the important, why I am speaking about and stretching about the roles that are involved in recruiting? Because once you start implementing and using, these roles will play a major role, and based upon the action or based upon the role, you should be able to easily relate the roles, and you have to do the particular task. Now, this is one of the most important point, and one of the first point that will be asked in any interview. When you go as an Oracle ORC consultant, and if you see, this is the first point that will be asked in any interview. What is recruiting life cycle is the first point, and what are the roles that are involved in the recruiting process. When you get asked what are the roles that are involved in recruiting, you can simply say that hiring manager, recruiter, collaborator, human resource specialist, agents, recruiting manager, and recruiting administrator. And what are the tasks that I have given here? The hiring manager raises the requisition, recruiter completes the requisition, collaborator schedules or collaborator helps the recruiter, and human resource specialist is responsible for managing the recruiting activities, and agents are responsible for submitting the application and helping in the recruiting activities. And recruiting manager will be the role where we can give the security profiles and have the recruiting data restricted to recruiter roles, and recruiting administrator role will be helpful to configure the recruiting task. These are the points that you have to mention when you are giving an interview, and this will be a sure short question in the time of interview. Now, let us see the other point, that is career sites. But before career site, what we will do as a part of next class, what I'm going to do is, we'll be seeing the complete recruiting cycle in the application, recruiting life cycle in the application. Now, before going and before configuring the other tasks that we have here, career sites, job application fronts, and all the other things, but we'll understand the recruiting process, the entire recruiting process in the application, from the point of the candidate and the recruiter and hiring manager, and what are the steps that recruiter will do. We'll see everything in the application. Let's see if we have the application server. Server, it might be down. Yeah, let us discuss like what we are going to do in the recruiting life cycle. We'll list them down, and we will see in real time in the next class, that is tomorrow. And meanwhile, guys, we have our team in the call. They will share you the Google Forms, request you to fill those Google Forms like with the data that you have, and so that our team can coordinate with you guys. Please fill those forms. And another important point, guys, as this is the second free class that we have given, from tomorrow, like people who are enrolled will only be able to get the link. That means we'll be sharing the link to the people who are only enrolled, and based upon that you will be able to like access this course. Request you to enroll today itself so that you don't get you guys don't miss out tomorrow's class. Yes, yes. Now let us see what we are going to see in the tomorrow's class. Recruiting life cycle, end user experience, complete end-to-end end user experience, guys, starting from scratch. First point, candidate applies. I will navigate through each and every step, and I will show you how these all actions are performed. Now, for any implementation consultant, because all of you guys wanted to become an implementation consultant, but a successful implementation consultant will know what an end user will do. What is the difference between a normal consultant and a successful consultant? Is the simple thing that they will be able to understand what the end user want and what configuration that he is doing in the application will impact the end users. Once you know what end user is going to do, then you can easily relate and easily understand what is the business purpose that your configuration is serving. Now here we'll see as a first step, candidate applying for the job and how recruiter manages, and how hiring manager coordinates, how offer letter will be released, how the candidate is moved to HR. Now, to list out, these are looking like simple, but there are n number of steps that are involved when the candidate applies or recruiter manages and hiring manager coordinates. There are certain steps. We'll see each and every step in detail in our next class. Now, let us jump into doubts. Guys, do you have any doubts? What are the topics that we have discussed? But before that, let me summarize. We have seen a real-time example of Tata Group, and we have seen how we can create a user and why we have to create a user, and what is implementation user, and what are the implementation roles, and what are ORC roles, and what each role will do, and how we can assign this role to the user. And we have discussed our tomorrow's agenda also, that is end user experience of complete recruiting life cycle. Now let's jump into doubts. Like if you have any doubts, please.
Yeah, team. So before getting into the doubts, so I just want to make an announcement. So first of all, thanks for the demo, Rajesh, and thanks all for joining the demo session. So with this, we have completed the two demo sessions. One is on Saturday and one is on today. So whoever enrolled, it's fine. You will be added to the new WhatsApp group where you will get all the regular announcement and class updates. So whoever not enrolled, please be enrolled with us today. So you can reach out to us by filling the Google form, or else you can reach out to us on number 8179563510. Varma, please post that number over the chat. So, team, with this, we have completed two demo sessions, and from tomorrow onwards, we will start a regular sessions. So, only for the enrolled participants, we will be sharing a new meeting link. So, I would request every one of you, please reach out to us and confirm the enrollments by today. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, yeah, you can ask your doubts if you have any.
Hi Rajesh.
Hi, Shilpa.
Yeah, Rajesh, I wanted to know about recruiter administrator more. Like, this
Mhm,
will be the role after implementation. If the
mhm,
client wants to make any changes, okay,
mhm.
into the application, so recruiting administrator will be the one who will be doing all the changes, like maybe using the Oracle recruiting, using the content library. Is that? Just
Yes,
wanted
yes,
to correct.
absolutely.
Because we'll be having many new positions coming up. There will be
Yes,
a job description,
yes,
uh, like that thing which would be needing day-to-day changes. So administrator would be the one role who
yes,
would
yes,
be performing all the changes, right? Maybe
yes,
a
yes, Shilpa.
pre-screening questionnaire,
Yes,
disqualification questions, all that ways.
yes. And to give you a clear picture, let's say
Okay,
you only have application implementation consultant role, and
okay,
still you will be able to, like, as you are already exposed and you already know all these things, you ask this question. And let's say in order to address you and the other folks that are in the call, let's say you are accessing the FSM, functional setup manager.
okay,
Now when you go to this particular recruiting functional part, recruiting and candidate experience, you will be able to go to the recruiting and candidate experience management. But when you go into that particular task, such as you said, recruiting content library, as
mm-hmm.
soon as you click on that one and try to access, it will not give you access, stating that you do not have required roles if you do not have recruiting administrator role.
Okay, okay.
Got the point, right?
Yes, yes.
Even with the application implementation consultant role, you should have recruiting administrator role in order to do certain configuration related to recruiting module.
Okay, okay. So it's a must to have role
Yes,
after
absolutely.
the implementation. And
Yes.
how about
Even at the
prior?
time of implementation also.
Even that time also it will be there.
That
Okay,
time also.
okay, okay. Rajesh, actually, I have one more doubt. But I
Mhm.
wanted to take that offline. Can we?
Okay, we can connect offline, no problem.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How can I connect with you?
Yeah, like my team will connect with you and they will share the details, so that whatever the question that you have, you can post it,
Sure.
or you can ask me. I will
Yeah,
directly address
Shilpa.
it.
You have our support number, right? So you can
Yes,
post your query to our support number, so it will be reached to Rajesh. No problem.
that will do. That will do. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
Whatever you have, Shilpa, don't hesitate. Just post it.
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
even if it is a complex one, I think I will take some time, but
Not
I'll
too
definitely
much.
answer
No, no,
your
no.
question.
It's not very complex one. A simple one. Uh, I'm just
Great.
posting.
If it is useful for the other, you can ask here, or else you can post it there. No
It
problem.
won't be actually. Uh, it will just confuse others.
Oh, great. No problem. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Understood.
Thank you.
Guys, any doubts?
Yeah, Rajesh,
Hi.
I have one doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Rajesh, are we going to discuss roles and user category later on in detail, or was it the only session you have for this?
Actually, actually, this is the actual session. But
Hmm.
now, as I told you, like when we do the complete testing process and implementation process, we'll definitely come to this page again and again.
No, meaning why I'm saying is you have not discussed about the user category, user types, and the other type of role, whether it is a job role or a data role.
Yeah. We'll discuss that one. We'll discuss, like, now whatever the things that we have discussed are like doesn't have anything to deal with the role. That's why, like, I'm taking ORC as a separate model. That's why, like, I have not discussed that one. But meanwhile, when we go, like when we start creating the custom roles, there is a need to create a data role as well. In that class, we'll discuss what are the different types of role and how we can create a custom role and how we can create a custom role related to recruiting cloud. We'll discuss that one.
Okay, one last request is
Mhm.
for the day when you're taking a session, can you please project the agenda for the day so we will come to know what topics are covered and what topics are pending, kind of thing? Because
Sure.
today's
Actually, like,
session, you have gone multiple places.
mhm.
So we want to know in the overall subject course and the agenda for the day, where are we? That clarity we need.
Sure, Aslam. Noted. Actually, in the beginning of the class itself, I have discussed about the agenda. Let me be very clear on the agenda from tomorrow.
No, when you complete the session, right, you just
Mhm.
bring back the same slide again. Say that these are the topics we were planning to discuss, and these are the topics which we have discussed.
Sure.
And please run the presentation in the presentation mode. No, because font size is very small. We cannot see it clearly.
Sure. That has been noted, Aslam, as a feedback. Thank you. Anyone? Yeah. Hi, Faisal. Please.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Rajesh. Will we talk about sandbox changes within ORC using all the different
Yes.
sandbox, Page Composer, user interface, text, and everything?
Yes. Like whenever we go, like we have a configuration called job application flows, where we'll be using the sandbox and use the HCM Experience Design Studio. We'll
Okay.
discuss that one. Yes.
Got it. And what about setting up integrations, ORC modules with third-party systems?
No, actually, like for setting up the third-party integrations, we have that in background check. But whereas
Okay.
for the other integration, the integration with core HR, talent, and composition, that we will discuss. The internal integrations we'll discuss, not the outbound ones.
Okay, got it. And will we talk about any ORC related reports?
No, we'll discuss about the dashboards, only the dashboard, the OTBA dashboards, the delivered ones
Okay.
that we have to manage the entire recruiting activity, not like custom reports.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, team. I think we can wind up the session. So, as I mentioned, whoever not confirmed the enrollments, please reach out to us and confirm the enrollments by today, and you will be getting the access to our portal with like where you can access all the videos, as well as you will be added to the new WhatsApp group where you can get a new class meeting link and daily day-to-day class updates. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thanks, Jen.